In the summer of 1914, the world stood on the precipice of war. The air was thick with anticipation and uncertainty as a single event in Sarajevo sent shockwaves across the globe. Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary, heir to one of the most powerful empires of the time, fell victim to an assassin's bullet. This assassination was not merely an act of violence against a single man, but rather, it was the spark that ignited the powder keg of long-standing rivalries and territorial ambitions across Europe. In the aftermath, a complex web of alliances and political tensions unfurled. Nations found themselves compelled to take sides, driven by a sense of duty, honor, and the pursuit of power. It was a volatile game of dominoes where each move carried the weight of potential conflict. It was a time of diplomatic dances and strategic maneuvers, but ultimately, the dance ended in war. A single bullet in Sarajevo set the world ablaze. As war erupted, the idyllic landscapes of Europe morphed into a grim theater of conflict. The once tranquil fields of France were transformed into a labyrinth of trenches, a testament to the scale and ferocity of the Great War. Soldiers from all walks of life found themselves entrenched in this man-made underworld, their lives reduced to a cycle of waiting, fighting, and enduring. The conditions in these trenches were beyond imagination. Mud clung to everything, a constant reminder of the filth and disease that became as much a part of the soldier's life as the bullets and shells. The smell of damp earth mixed with the stench of death, creating a sensory assault that was as relentless as the enemy fire. The soldiers lived in close quarters, their world confined to a narrow strip of land. They ate, slept, and fought within the same few square feet, their lives dictated by the ebb and flow of the battle above. The constant threat of death hung over them like a dark cloud, the deafening roar of artillery a grim soundtrack to their existence. This was a time of major battles that would go down in history. The Battle of the Somme, Verdun, and Passchendaele were some of the bloodiest encounters, each one a gruesome testament to the destructive power of modern warfare. Amidst the chaos, a new era of warfare dawned. The skies, once the domain of the birds, became a battlefield as airplanes took to the air. They rained down bombs on enemy positions, their wings cutting through the sky like a harbinger of death. Beneath the waves, submarines lurked, their stealthy presence a constant threat to the ships above. The introduction of these new technologies changed the nature of warfare forever. The age of knights and castles was long gone, replaced by a world where death could come from above or below at any moment. The face of war had been irrevocably changed. As the dust settled on the battlefields, the world was left to grapple with the reality of this new kind of conflict, a conflict that had transformed the idyllic landscapes of Europe into a grim theater of war. While young men faced the horrors of war, life on the home front was marked by its own set of challenges. Just as the battlefront was a world of constant change, so too were the homes left behind. The impact of the Great War reached far beyond the muddy trenches and devastated cities. It seeped into every corner of civilian life, transforming the rhythms of daily existence. Indeed, one of the most profound impacts of the war was the introduction of rationing. As resources were redirected to support the war effort, everyday items became scarce. Food, clothing, even coal were rationed, leading to long queues and a black market. The government introduced meatless Mondays and wheatless Wednesdays to stretch supplies. The home front became a front line of conservation and sacrifice. Then there was the propaganda, a powerful tool used to shape public perception and maintain morale. From posters encouraging men to enlist, to stories of heroic deeds and enemy atrocities, the government sought to control the narrative. The media became a battleground in its own right, where victory was measured not in territory gained, but in hearts and minds won. But perhaps the most profound impact was the loss. Every family, every community felt the absence of those who had gone to fight. The war took fathers, sons, and brothers, leaving behind empty chairs at dinner tables and holes in the fabric of society. The telegrams bearing the words "missing in action" or "killed in action" were dreaded by all, their arrival heralding a grief that was all too common. And amidst all this, life had to go on. Children went to school, mothers worked in factories, fields were plowed and crops were harvested. Life on the home front was a strange mix of the mundane and the extraordinary, a dance of survival in a world turned upside down. Through rationing, propaganda, and the ever-present shadow of loss, the war reached into every home, changing lives forever. The war touched every home, every life. In the darkest of times, moments of shared humanity shone through. Amid the deafening roars of artillery, the choking gas clouds, and the relentless onslaught of machine gun fire, a glimmer of kindness and camaraderie emerged. Picture this. It's Christmas Eve. The year is 1914. There's a lull in the fighting. From the British trenches, the sound of carols drifts across the frozen no-man's land. On the German side, a reply echoes back, their own carols filling the frosty night. Then something extraordinary happens. Soldiers, enemies just hours before, emerge from their trenches. They meet in the middle, exchanging gifts, sharing stories, even playing a game of football. It's a brief respite from the horrors of war, a fleeting glimpse of peace and shared humanity amidst the carnage. This, known as the Christmas Truce, is a testament to the indomitable spirit of mankind. Even in the midst of conflict, there were reminders of our shared humanity. After years of bloodshed, the guns finally fell silent. The end of the Great War, later known as World War I, marked a significant turning point in human history. The conflict had raged on for more than 4 long years, leaving in its wake a landscape scarred by the horrors of modern warfare. Entire cities had been reduced to rubble, fields once lush and green were now barren wastelands, and millions of lives were lost, a testament to the devastating power of human conflict. The world was left reeling, trying to make sense of the scale and ferocity of the destruction that had been unleashed. Empires that had stood for centuries were shattered, their territories carved up and redistributed. The map of Europe was redrawn, and in the aftermath of the conflict, new nations emerged, born from the ashes of the old. Yet, even as the world grappled with the aftermath of the war, a glimmer of hope began to shine through the darkness. The end of the war brought with it a yearning for peace, a desire to ensure that such a devastating conflict would never happen again. This hope was embodied in the creation of the League of Nations, an international organization designed to promote peace and prevent future wars. For the first time in history, nations were coming together in a concerted effort to maintain peace through dialogue and diplomacy, rather than resorting to the horrors of war. The end of World War I also saw the emergence of a powerful sense of unity among the survivors. They had endured the horrors of the trenches, the hardships of the home front, and the loss of loved ones, and these shared experiences forged a bond that transcended national boundaries. This unity was a beacon of hope in a world still reeling from the devastation of war. From the ashes of destruction, a new hope emerged. A hope for a world free from the spectre of war. The end of World War I marked not just the end of a conflict, but the dawn of a new era, a time when the world dared to dream of a future marked by peace, unity, and mutual understanding. World War I left an indelible mark on the world. It was a time when empires collided, alliances shifted, and the fates of nations teetered on the precipice of conflict. A single act of violence in the summer of 1914 ignited the powder keg of rivalries and ambitions, leading to a war of unprecedented scale and ferocity. The trenches of France became a grim theater of conflict, where soldiers and civilians alike bore the brunt of the war's horrors. Yet even in the midst of such turmoil, stories of courage, sacrifice, and moments of shared humanity emerged. New technologies forever changed the face of warfare, and when the guns finally fell silent, the world was transformed. The war took a devastating toll, leaving millions dead, landscapes scarred, and empires shattered. But from the ashes of destruction, a new hope for peace and unity emerged. The scars of World War I serve as a solemn reminder of the cost of conflict and the need to strive for a peaceful future.